In a world where people are losing their minds, who will be the voice of sanity, of logic, of rationale, of morality and truth? This podcast is looking for like-minded people to stand up to the insane and be real. The Recovery Atheist podcast is calling you to step forward and be counted. Welcome to the voice of change. Welcome to the Recovery Atheist podcast.
Change has always fascinated me. We go through so much of it in our lives, me included. My parents divorced. I was widowed in my 20s. I've been a single parent. And my whole career has been built around helping others deal with change. Why do we respond to it differently? How can some people just adapt while others clearly struggle? Let's face it, the pace of change is not slowing down. 80% of the jobs which will exist in 2025 do not exist today. The average amount of jobs in someone's lifetime is now 6, in 6 different companies. That's a lot of change. And given that 1/3 of the UK workforce is at this moment dealing with an anxiety, well-being or mental health issue, the data suggests that we're not coping very well with what's going on. I believe that we're going to have to do better at change. I believe that we're losing the ability to adapt proactively because we're not taking the time and attention to prepare and develop ourselves. We're constantly jumping from change to change, acting on impulse, not acting on strategy. And so that's why I'm on this stage today. My purpose is to help you respond to change how you want to and be the person that you want to be while you do. It all started with a little project to see, what made some people adaptable and others not. I researched into theory and academic literature, launched a full-scale review at work of thousands of stories of lives and careers and breakthroughs and insecurities. Naively, I thought it might be easy to begin with, but it wasn't, and my little project became 10 years worth of work. But now I can share with you a formula for success, which will help you both in work and out of it. But first of all, let me share with you a couple of insights. During this time, I was working in Australia, and I was travelling back and to every couple of months. And I was a single parent at the time, so it required a lot of organisation and planning, but also brought with it a lot of tiredness and guilt. And on this particular trip, my children were really struggling with me being away this time. And I was in a meeting with my colleagues, and I was checking my phone occasionally to make sure that they were okay and that they didn't need me. And my colleague called me on it, and he said, "Jen, you keep looking at your phone. Are you bored? I'm finding it really distracting. You have to stop." Now, I'd like to say that I responded to his request to change my behaviour, with gratitude and thanked him and put my phone neatly into my bag. But I didn't. I stood up and I raised my voice and I launched into a justification of my behaviour, telling him how only a couple of hours before I'd FaceTimed my sons and they were so upset, they were so emotional with me not being there that they couldn't even say my name. And if it's okay with him, I'd just like to check that they're okay. I'm not proud of it, it wasn't my finest moment, but it isn't always easy to respond to change how we want to. And my tiredness and guilt, it had worn down my adaptability and I was less able to control my response. We all struggle to adapt sometimes, and quite often the coping mechanisms that we've had in the past don't necessarily work in the future. As we progress into leaders and parents and mature human beings most of the time, we need to be even more aware of how we respond to change so that we don't cause ourselves anxiety or regret because we're just acting incongruously with who we are. Also, we don't unconsciously also teach others how to struggle. It reminds me of a lady I worked with called Jane, And Jane had been recently promoted, and she was overcome by the amount of change that this new role brought with it. Her response to change was quite aggressive and perfectionistic. She liked to control everything. And with this new role, it just wasn't possible anymore. The role was too big for her to get her arms around in the same way. Since she'd taken the post, she'd had 2 team members go off with stress. She had another 2 who'd just become yes men. They're obviously out of fear. And her peers saw her as inconsistent, and they just didn't know which Jane was going to turn up. We were in the middle of a coaching session, and she put her head in her hands, and she said, "Jen, there's just too much change. We're going to have to stop. We'll work on me when all of this has died down," just at the time when she needed it most. Luckily, she did reverse her decision a couple of weeks later, but it brought home to me the importance of this project of mine. Because this is how we live our lives, isn't it? In the midst of so much change and urgency, that we respond, we react instinctively, and we react to what's in front of us because we have to. But we don't take the time to prepare ourselves in advance of the change. And I responded to just a colleague's perception of my behaviour. Jane responded to another change on her plate. Neither response was planned. They were automatic and instinctive, but they were inconsistent with who we are and where we want to be. We can't always control the change that happens to us, but we can manage our response to it. And this is what I found out about how to do that. I found that those people who were able to be adaptable, who could respond to change how they wanted, they had this certain adaptability, and it meant that they had certain characteristics in common. In those who struggled to adapt, these characteristics were minimal or missing, and I call it the adaptability equation. Purpose, inquisitiveness, resilience, and threat. Developing your capability in these areas will help you to be more adaptable. Let's take purpose. Winston Churchill once said that you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. He was talking about purpose. Those with a strong purpose know that it's actually their purpose that will help them to weather the storms without getting distracted or demotivated. And it helps them to be more adaptable because it's their purpose that guides them to make the right choices in the face of change. Take Elon Musk as an example. Some people think he's set up an electric car company, but his purpose is to rid the world of carbon emissions. Today he chooses electric cars, tomorrow it's solar power or the Hyperloop. The power of purpose is so strong. Why do you think Tesla is worth more than the Ford Motor Company, even though it's never made a profit? And do you know your purpose? And whether your everyday habits and choices take you closer to it or further away? Inquisitiveness is the inner child that asks 100 questions a day. It requires space and headroom and a certain mindset to constantly learn and grow. Dr. Carol Dweck would call it the growth mindset. And these people, they're able to constantly scan the environment, looking for the need to adapt in the future. And this makes them more adaptable because all the powerful thinking and insight has happened before the change hits them or before they decide to make a change. Think about it. The more questions you ask, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more questions you think of to ask. It's a reinforcing cycle. So think about a problem in a different way. Try a new solution. Ask the stupid question. And then I found a characteristic which involved overcoming setbacks and reducing stress, both for the individual and for those around them. And this I call resilience. It's been proven that the formation of a habit is not affected by falling off the wagon every now and then. So that cake you ate while you were on your diet or that outburst you had while you were working on your self-control, they're normal, they're to be expected. And it's actually overcoming these setbacks and learning from them which will help you to be more adaptable. So be honest with yourselves. Have the setbacks and changes that you've experienced, have they made you settle for being off course? Or are you still on track to being who you want to be? Now, these first 3 characteristics had a positive correlation with adaptability. So developing a high capability in these areas will help you to be more adaptable. But then I found a characteristic which had a negative correlation with adaptability. So a high level of threat will actually hurt your adaptability overall. The aim here is to reduce it. We all have a threat response when we're faced with a real or perceived danger, and this can be as subtle as aggressive body language or a different point of view or a threat of looking stupid. The effect on the brain is the same as being followed down a dark alley. In Australia, I was in a high state of threat. My children needed me, I wasn't there for them, and my colleague, well-intentioned, was keeping me from the only partial responsibility that I could take, which was checking my phone. To be highly adaptable, you need to have a strong awareness of your threat response, what it looks like, what it feels like, what triggers it, and how best to manage it. So here's the equation. Adaptability equals purpose plus inquisitiveness plus resilience divided by threat. To be highly adaptable and be able to respond to change how you want to, develop your PIR, reduce your T. Now, what's interesting about all these characteristics is they're non-fixed characteristics. They're not genetic, they can be learned and developed over time. This was quite a breakthrough for me because I realized that all these people I'd studied and worked with who were adaptable had not just been adaptable, they had learned how to be adaptable. You see, historically it was thought that the brain was a physiologically static organ. It's created in childhood and now we're just stuck with what we've got. And while it's true that the brain is much more plastic in the early years, plasticity happens throughout life. We just may need a little bit more focus and persistence as we get older. We are meant to adapt. But the brain is also highly efficient. And this means that it will look for patterns to avoid us having to consciously think about the same things over and over again. So just like a river flowing down a well-worn riverbed, the brain will take the easy route, encouraging us to think in the same way, react in the same way, and creating automatic thinking habits and blind spots. It's much easier to continue doing something we've always done than it is to stop. Unless we know this and we make a conscious commitment to change. We all have the capacity to learn, and we all have the capacity to learn how to adapt. We just have to start. So today, I challenge you. Research shows it takes 66 days for a new habit on average to form. From today, that takes us to just past New Year's Day. Start today to being the person you want to be in the face of change. Don't wait for a resolution to be someone new next year. Look at the adaptability equation. Which areas do you need to focus on so that you can respond to change how you want to and be the person that you want to be while you do? Develop your PIR, reduce your T, and encourage others to do the same. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. How's everyone out there doing in Podcast Nation? Thank you for joining me on the Recovery Atheist podcast. And I want to say that I am so excited that you have decided to check in with me today. How's everyone out there doing? I hope everyone is doing well. For the most part, on my end, I'm doing pretty good. Definitely had some things that have come up that I've had to deal with, and life, regardless of how you feel it is or where it is and where you want it to stay, things happen and things go in different directions, and that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. Is there's a lot, change. And change is part of life. Whether we want it to be the case or not, change is going to happen. And all we can do is just roll with it, right? So, yeah, this last couple of weeks, there's been some changes that I'm having to make. Not necessarily is all of it comfortable. Some of it feels like, you're running around trying to make sure you get everything together and to go in the right direction for you in making this change. So that's kind of what I want to talk about is change. Just talking about living life on life's terms, and especially how that relates to you in your recovery. And, it doesn't, just because you got a year sober, doesn't make it any easier. Okay, that's the biggest thing, is I think a lot of people don't understand that, is just because you got a year sober and you're getting into multiple years of being sober, like all of a sudden life is going to be easier, and how you deal with it, how you feel about it, all of that is going to be easier, and that's just not the case. So, I guess I'll just break it down. I'm at the point now that I've done enough steps to get me to where I'm at today, and here in the next week, we'll be making some change. Okay, so as most of you know, with what I do, at this moment right now, I'm a mental health practitioner for a place here in Duluth, Minnesota. Things are going well with that. I'm also been house managing a sober living house here in Duluth as well. In which I felt I was doing, how do I say it? I thought I did a good job. Is there things I could probably improve on? Yes, of course, everybody can improve on certain things in their life. But when it come down to it, the owner decided that he wanted to make a change at house manager, that I wasn't as focused on this as I would like to be, as he would want me to be. And, he's right in a lot of areas that way. My focus is on a lot of other areas of my life now that I'm trying to have growth, which would be my career, which would be the podcast, which would just be living life and recovering, being sober. It's time for me to spread my wings and fly here. And so they've decided to make that change. I was given till May 1st to get some housing arrangements set up, which I was able to do. I've got it set up. I'll be moving in April 1st, so here in a week. Unfortunately, I'm going to be losing this beautiful studio that I have. Doesn't make me happy. I put a lot of money into this, but that's my fault. Shouldn't have done it. Should have known that things are not going to last. Now, I've been through this before. I had a studio at the beginning of my podcast that I really enjoyed working out of, and I had to move on from that, and was just fine. And things will go forward, and I will adjust, and my podcast will be just as good, if not better, and life will go on. But it's frustrating. And I guess that's the biggest thing I want to talk about today, is change and how fucking frustrating it is. Okay? You get to see, I try to be authentic and real on this show with everything about how I'm feeling and what I'm doing. Well, you're going to get a nice little dose of that tonight. I'm fucking frustrated. It just seems like you work hard to get things to where you're comfortable with it, and someone's got to come along and just throw a fucking monkey wrench into it. There's always got to be someone who needs to just fucking mind their own business when, on things, and they've got to fuck things up for their own needs. And I'm really, that's where I'm at with it right now. I'm getting fucking tired of people just interjecting themselves in areas that they have no clue what they're fucking talking about at all. And that's a big reason why I need my own space. I'm tired of people telling me how I should be doing my recovery, or telling me whether or not I am doing a good enough job in this or that. Fuck you. You don't know me from anything. I barely even fucking see you. let alone, do you even sit down with me and have a true conversation? No, you don't. You don't. So how do you even fucking know what's going on? That's my question to you. You have no fucking clue. You think you do. You think you know what's going on. You think you have all the answers. You fucking don't. And some of the stuff that you think you know so much about, I can guarantee you I know more. But you won't admit to that, nor do you think that I do. The truth is that's the case. And I'm tired of being treated like I'm some fucking numbskull idiot who doesn't know anything. Like I could have called that this was going to happen a month ago. I probably even felt that way before I even got into the situation. There's a trust factor there. That the truth is I don't trust the individual. And I don't know if I ever have, to be honest with you. And it's interesting when I talk about that is that I'm not the only one. There's many other people that feel the same way. There are people out there in the real world that I work with and I am around and talk to and this and that feel the same way. So I'm not concerned about this individual's opinions. I am not concerned about really what he's deciding to do with anything. My side of the road is clean. My side of the street is clean here. I'm frustrated because there is no stability with this situation. There is no stability with this individual. And I cannot live my life that way. I cannot live my life with instability, with not having any, stability right now. It's all unstable. There's nothing to it that promises me that it's going to change that way. So why would I want to be here? Now, if I was fresh in recovery like I was a year ago, then yeah, I put up with it. But I don't have to fucking put up with it anymore. I need stability. I need to know that what I'm building and what I'm doing here, that there's a future. In the situation I'm in, there is no fucking future. So I'm going to be going, and I'm going to be building that future. And more power to them. Good luck to them in their endeavors and what they decide to do. But my way of thinking and the way things I think should be in the situation, he's not going to go with or agree with. So, yeah. That'll end that. And that's fine. I've got no ill will. I've got no resentment or hatred or anything like that. It is just a difference of opinion on how things should work. And this isn't working. And I know that I'm not the only one that feels that way. And, it's one of those things. Karma. It's a bitch. It'll come back on you. The biggest thing about it that pisses me off is that he doesn't even know the warrior that he has when it comes to dealing with this stuff. And that if he could at least even one situation make me feel loyal, that he's loyal to me and has my back, I would do anything. hasn't proven it, hasn't shown it. What? Because I get this studio? That's it? No, it's time to move on. It's time for me to have growth in my life that I am being held back from here. And so that's what it is. So what has changed? Why do we have to fucking deal with change? You know what? The way I look at it is this. Is sometimes with change, if we don't have it happen, then we never will move on into something better for ourselves. We'll just stay stuck in that situation. And that's just the way I'm feeling right now. I feel fucking stuck. Like tonight, I'm sitting here right now knowing I'm a week away from moving into the new place, and I feel stuck. I feel, I can't do anything for another week. Can't make some of the changes I'm needing to make. I'm just in a situation of, I'm just biding time right now. I'm just trying to get by and move on in the best way I can. I'm still going to be an alumni. I still feel love for this program. Just differences of opinions on how this ended. I don't think it's ending right. But that's fine. I have the right to my opinion, and they do too. Why does change have to be so fucking frustrating? I mean, I've had some change where it's happened where it's been good. Like changing from my last employment situation. I didn't necessarily like how it ended, but knowing what was going to happen, it was a good move into the next direction that I needed in my life when it came to where I work. And it's just opened doors, and more avenues for me to go down. So no, that change needed. And that's why I made that change, because I felt stagnant. I felt stuck. I felt like there was no movement. And I was just getting more and more frustrated the more and more I did with that employment. Today, I don't feel that way. Today, I feel things are going in the direction that I need them to go, that allows me to grow as a person. The biggest thing in my life right now is I am fucking tired of being told how to live my life. I'm fucking tired of being told how to deal with my recovery. I'm tired of people thinking that they know what I'm supposed to be doing, and they're not fucking me. They're not me. So how do you fucking know what I need? And you've taken no opportunity, a lot of people, not just this individual, but a lot of people have taken no opportunity to even try to get to know. So why should I care? Honestly. Why should I put any effort or any energy to it at all? Can you give me a reason? I sure hell can't. I need to be able to get up every day with the idea of I am getting up to expand my life and to grow. And to be able to make the choices I need to in my life without having to ask necessarily for permission from somebody else. I'm a 45-year-old man. I don't need to be doing that. Okay? So today, it's one of those days where I'm dealing with it the best I can. I'm just getting through it. I'm trying to stay patient with the situation, trying to stay calm, trying to stay focused on what the ultimate goal is here. But it's I'm just tired of dealing with some people's shit, where it's all about them. And that's the way it's been. It's all about them. He'll probably disagree, but it is. I don't know. I'm just at the point now that I'm just doing the best I can to survive. I'm going to do what I need to do over these next few days, start getting packed up, getting things ready to go to be moved. But really, when it comes down to it, this was not far away from just making me homeless. It wasn't that far. It's so fucking funny. They want you to be so focused on the house, which means good luck having a full-time job or do anything like that, because that's going to take away from what you need to do. Can't work second shift, can't work third shift. Good luck finding a first shift job that way, and then having to work it full-time all the time, and then turn around and be invested in the house constantly. When do you get your time? So most likely the person who is actually doing that is not working. So if something would come up to have... What if I wasn't in a situation where I was somewhat working again and had stimulus coming? Where would I go? I just... To me, it feels like I'm being left out in the cold a little bit. I'm being hung out in a tree and I don't know what to fucking do. Good thing I'm a survivor. Good thing that I was a drug addict and an alcoholic who knew how to survive, because I figured out how to do it and how to rearrange it, and I got on top of it. I busted my ass and got myself in a situation that way. But really, the way this is all going down, I don't find it very professional, and I definitely don't find it very nice from a guy who's supposed to be supportive of me and a brother. And I'll just leave it at that. It's disappointing. I really thought that we were going to do something big. And it's really disappointing when you have a letdown like that. So yeah, it's affecting me a little bit today, emotionally. Now that I've got the room paid for, you know, the new place I'm moving into, and it's finally, everything's coming together that I'm going to be leaving here. It's finally it's becoming real. And it pisses me off. Huge disappointment. This is not how I wanted this to go down. What are you going to do? All you can do is deal with it, suck it up, live life on life's terms, move on, and grow from it. So, I am going to come out of this on the other side stronger, better, in a better situation. I'm going to have better podcasting time. I'm going to have a better job situation. I'm going to have more time with my sponsor. I'm going to have more time in the meeting rooms. I'm going to have more time doing things I need to do for me in my recovery, not for somebody else, so that they can grow, you know, selfishly. That's where I'm at with it. Doing the best I can with all of it. It's time to move on. Hope everybody out there is doing well. If you're kind of going through what I'm going through, I feel for you. I know what it's like. I'm going through it currently. I'm hoping everyone is getting their vaccinations and getting healthier and getting back out there in the world, and hopefully some normalcy will start coming back a little bit for this summer. I would like to be able to go to some concerts and sporting events and festivals, and maybe the Pride Festival in Minneapolis this year. I don't know if they're going to have it or not, but I'd like to get back to some things that are things I like to get to. I'm tired of being cooped up in the house all the fucking time. I'm sure you are too, and not being able to go anywhere. So that's where we're at with that. Remember, you can get a hold of me at therecoveryatheist@gmail.com if you want to email me. You can find me on Facebook under Del Bacon. I have the Recovery Atheist group that's through Facebook. You can find me on my YouTube channel, The Recovery Atheist, as well. Lots of videos on there. And you can also take me on the go wherever you go when you're on the go. You can find me on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Google, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. I mean, I'm everywhere. Talk to Alexa, say, hey, Alexa, play the Recovery Atheist podcast, and she'll do it for you. So take me on the go when you're on the go. Be safe out there. Love all of you. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Recovery Atheist podcast. It's now up to you. What will you do with what you've heard? How will you use it? I challenge you not to stay silent. Be heard. Be real. Be different.